Hello and welcome back once again to the locker room. Typically, we like the sports motif we've got going on. We like the idea that we're just, a couple guys hanging out, talking about the stuff. Of course, it's named in honor of senior pastor, Pastor Jim Locke here at Hillcrest Baptist Church. And although today we're recording the day after the United States takes a tragic loss in the World Cup competition.
I watched that whole thing last night, and I was very disappointed. I had been watching the previous match with France. Mm-hmm. I think it was France. No, it was the Mexico match. It was Mexico and England. Mm-hmm. That was the one that was prior a couple of nights ago. Mm-hmm. And that was a very outstanding match. And I had I think it was that Sunday night or Saturday night?
It may have been a couple of days ago.
Anyway,
2 days ago.
Yeah. Great match. Got sidetracked and thought, I need to go back and watch the end of that game. And when I came back, it was already over. So I missed the ending of that game. But I mean, that last night game I had on the entire night from start to finish. And of course, I'm not an expert in traditional football, but and don't know all the rules, but enough to keep up with it. And I just thought that our American team, looked super disjointed. And I don't know if all the conflict with respect to their player getting red carded and then not red carded because the president got involved, which was kind of a crazy thing. And I just don't know if all of that stuff distracted them, but they just didn't look very sharp.
Yeah.
And then at the end, giving up goal. The first goal they gave up looked like something off of a junior high soccer.
The first two.
Yeah.
The first two should not have happened.
Well, they tied it, and then 30 seconds later,
And that, again. And so
and that seemed to suck the wind out of them when they gave up that really quick goal after tying the match.
Yeah.
It was never the same, but they just didn't look very sharp.
Well, it's like everything in sports. That's why they play the game. You don't know what can happen, but this obviously had a lot of buzz around this team. There was a lot of excitement going forward, and the improvements that have been made over the years. Were hometown, we're hosting, and all the things. And they played excellent in those round robin games until they lost that last one in their round robin, which again shouldn't have happened. But that was just a momentary lapse. But yeah, watching last night, I think it was two things. I think they were not as aggressive as they had been playing. They were playing cautious, and so that kind of, in my opinion, that kind of pulled them back a little bit, so they weren't attacking like they had been. They were pulling back rather than going forward. And then the balls just weren't bouncing our way last night. There were a couple times they had opportunities. There were good passes. It just went the other way, and sometimes that happens, in sports. Sometimes the ball just goes the other way, and so a little disappointing for us.
Especially given most of those games are happening in the United States, and so you really wanted them to go super deep, if not certainly win the whole thing, but at least go super deep into keep the momentum going. But anyway, it's the way the old ball bounces.
It is.
And so,
it is still we'll just make up another sport called American football and be good at
and
that.
It's coming.
we're very close. We're very close.
It's coming.
No, it was good. So it's been a couple of minutes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You didn't give me a heads up because I forgot to bring my sunglasses here today. That's the brightest shirt I think I've ever seen in my life. And we should have begun the broadcast with a black light.
Yes, well, it does glow. It does glow under black light. You're right. I told you before we started recording, I remembered we were going to record this today, and then I forgot about it, and I put my shirt on and came to work. So forgive me for being a little less dressed up. But this is one that we got.
Did you get this in El Salvador?
From El Salvador, yeah. This is kind of a cool moment. So it's very similar to a design, and I'm going to probably go into a longer story than I need to, but at the church we serve at in El Salvador, the Open Door Church, one of the deacons there is an artist, and he has painted a similar design to this on one of the walls inside one of the classrooms. And he has done this and kind of morphed a lamb into the side of this, and so underneath it's the lamb and the lion. Mm-hmm. And so it's a really neat, it's a wall mural we actually designed our team shirts a couple of years ago to do that, to match that on the back. And so I saw this when we were out shopping. And I said, that's really cool. So I just like the lion theme, and I got it, and I put it on. I love the look of it. Maybe not for podcasting, but this is one of those plastic transfer on, so it weighs about 30 pounds.
I started to say,
I'm probably sweating in this area.
You don't want to walk outside from east to west the length of the campus.
I may
today,
reserve this for winter months, but that is really cool.
Heavy on the front side. I've got a couple of them like that, or I've had them. Yeah. Well, that's great. How was El Salvador? Tell us about it.
Amazing, and first and foremost, a sincere and heartfelt thank you to all of our Hillcrest people, for our leadership, for our staff, for Dr. Barlow. The support that we have gotten, and I'm still in Spanish mode, and continue to get over the years is just a tremendous encouragement to us. The people that give generously to support our team when we have fundraising events like our taco luncheon, or when we sell items and those kind of things, the church just shows up. They're gracious and they're generous, and we are truly thankful for that. The trip was fantastic. I've described it as I'm completely exhausted and empty and filled up at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that feeling, which is wonderful. Our team was about half first-timers and half returning people. They meshed very well. We had no issues logistically, anything that came up health-wise. Everybody did pretty well. But just this spirit of flexibility, jumping in as whatever was needed. So I'll probably share more of these over the next couple of weeks through teachings and opportunities to lead. But we got to build, I'll call it a house and 2/3, because we built one full wooden frame house, wood house with a tin roof that we've talked about, and we got the opportunity to build a block house as well this year. So we didn't quite get that finished, but it was good. We had a lunch. Will
somebody come in behind you and finish that?
They finished that, yeah. So the team this week will actually finish that upper level and that roof on there, not second story, but the top part of the brick and then the roof. So they'll finish that this week. We hosted a luncheon for police officers in Santa Ana, which was really neat to have them come in. They came in a little guarded and wondering, because they hadn't really done this before at the church, but they left with smiles and with handshakes and encouragement. We prayed for them, and then they turned around. All 110 of them stood up and prayed for us, which was a really cool moment. We got to serve at a small church up on the mountain. And hearing this pastor's story of obedience, of the call for God to minister. The people walk. There's about 50 to 60 people that regularly attend, and they walk from miles away, through the hills and through the kind of jungle. And to get there, it's a block building, a square block building with a tin roof on top, and it's hot. But the people come rejoicing. And so we got to serve with him. The highlight for me, because every year it's something a little different, the highlight for me was we got to serve in a men's prison. So the men in the group went to a men's prison, the ladies went to a female prison. And man, it was a worship service. You never know what you're going to walk into when you get to a prison. This was a prison that was the home for terminally ill inmates. So these are gentlemen that could not stay in general population or where they were. Lots of gang members, lots of older gang members. It's really interesting.
Prisons are tough in El Salvador.
But you see these men who are in their 50s and even 60s, still with the tattoos, still all the stuff, but they're approaching their end of life, whatever that looks like in the next however many years. And you just look in their eyes, and you see that life of I wish I had done something different. Now they're realizing.
Yeah.
But again, the group that we were gathered with had responded to the gospel, either genuinely or just saying so they could be there. But either way, whatever reason they were there, they heard a full gospel message preached. They responded. They led in worship. They had a little worship band in there. And I'll tell you again. I'll probably elaborate more on this. But when you see hundreds of men in prison singing songs like "I've been set free," it means something a little different.
Yeah, sure.
And they were singing full on, completely giving to worship, hands raised and everything. It was really powerful. That one really got me this year. So just great. Yeah, great team. Lots of people shared testimonies and encouraged. We got a chance to pray for a lot of people. Had several people respond to the gospel. Actually, we did a food distribution for families who had family members in prison. Mm-hmm. So again, I go on and probably will again, just because it's something that's powerful. It's something that we're grateful to get to do, and you bring this back with you, and to be able to share it is really cool. So
that's great.
Thank you for the time and the opportunity to do it, and super blessed.
Yeah, glad you all had the opportunity. You took about 20 or so.
26.
26.
Yeah, it's the largest single team that we've taken to El Salvador. So it was good. Little logistical challenges there with a large team, but it worked out very well. And had a great week. So
welcome back.
Thank you.
We missed you.
Thank you.
Gavin did a good job last week.
I appreciate Gavin as always. As you said, he's so talented,
multi-talented.
So many ways.
He's taking a much needed vacation this week after the performance on Sunday, and of course the busy days and nights leading up to that. But he did. He took the chair, had his questions prepared. In fact, he had so many questions prepared. I think we did our all-time longest podcast that we've ever done. So we went a little bit longer than we kind of target.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any kind of countdown clock or anything. We got this. It won't take too long. But we had a deep-seated discussion and had a good time. But we missed you. Well,
I hope so. That's the thing. You don't want to walk back and say you didn't notice I was gone.
No.
Or we start switching the chairs around. But the good news is, if Gavin is selected to take this seat, I'm capable to step in behind the scenes and run the text. So that's okay. That's good.
We have lots of cross-trained individuals for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. Welcome home.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Looking forward again to the next several weeks and things like that.
You'll be preaching in a few weeks here at Hillcrest in the month of July.
Yeah.
As we do a little vacation time, as we always do typically in July, getting ready for the fall. And so you've got an opportunity to share, and a couple of the other guys will as well. So lots of good things to look forward to. Yeah.
So how are you? So you mentioned that you have the vacation coming up. Everything else?
Yeah, everything's going great. It's just been super busy. Lots of stuff happening, and we had the little family issue with our grandson who had surgery and had a bad reaction to the anesthesia and ended up having a reaction that scared the life out of us, and ended up in the hospital for several days. And so we didn't see that coming. That was the week of Vacation Bible School. And then getting ready for the musical program, and Southern Baptist Convention was in the month of June.
Right.
Then we went to Colorado at the end of May to preach at one of our former church plants out there, and spent some extra days while we were there. So a lot of moving and shaking going on, and almost none of it restful. And so then, this past week was super busy leading up to the performance on Sunday night, America 250th weekend. Big weekend.
Yeah, we did want to mention that.
Yeah, and it just was great. Between Brad and myself, emails blowing up, and
it's a lot. It's a lot to put on.
We did. We didn't know. We didn't know really how to plan for it, because we've never done one like this before. I mean, we've done nights of praise, and obviously we're not going to do multiple services, but we didn't know whether we needed to do this just one time or whether we needed to do it like Christmas at Hillcrest and have two performances. As it turned out, we did not need to do two performances, and I kind of anticipated that even on Sunday morning, because we had a lower attendance. I mean, it wasn't there weren't massive absences, but from the previous week, which was a really heavily attended Summer Sunday 2 weeks ago, this past Sunday, you could tell it was a holiday weekend, because our attendance at both services was down from the previous week in ways that the eyeball could capture from the stage. And then the performance itself was done to, I wouldn't call it a capacity crowd, because people weren't sitting shoulder to shoulder, but it was certainly a comfortably full crowd.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1,300 people or so, which is approaching capacity technically in the room, and but it wasn't shoulder to shoulder. But We were pleased with the turnout. Super enthusiastic group. And it was an enthusiastic type of program. There were upbeat songs, very contemplative songs.
Yeah.
There were celebratory songs and worshipful songs. And so I think that the structure of the service itself was done in such a way that we could recognize the gift that America is and celebrate the miracle, really, that the United States is, both in terms of its founding and 250 years, which is a long time for a democratic republic. I mean, it really is. We're the as far as I know, we're the oldest democratic republic in the world today. And most of the time they don't last, certainly don't last 250 years.
Right.
Because most of the time what happens is kind of like what happens with the French Revolution. So you have the French Revolution in the late 1780s. And of course the people, threw the king out, rebelled against anybody that had any whiff of aristocracy, and then, formed this French Republic. And it didn't take long for this guy named Napoleon to come along and literally crown himself emperor of the French Empire. And that didn't last very long. And so, there are these upheavals that typically surround things like democracies. And so America has kind of shown its mettle in a good way. And even in the face of great division, and I emphasize that this country was founded. It was the founders were divided. They fought like cats and dogs about the Declaration, even more so about the Constitution, and couldn't agree. And the thing almost imploded in 1789 at Philadelphia when they were trying to agree on what we now have as the Constitution of the United States, which replaced what was known as the Articles of Confederation, which basically, was a set of guidelines for 13 sovereign states, not really a united republic.
Yeah.
And so every state kind of made up its own rules, but there was not a lot of unity. And so the Constitution basically took that over, but it was, birthed out of significant division. One of the great books of the American Revolution is a book called Miracle at Philadelphia. It's an older book by Catherine Drinker Bowen, and she calls it Miracle at Philadelphia because it has to do with the Constitutional Convention, and it was a miracle. America defeating the British Army, the greatest army on the planet, was a miracle. Should have never happened. And yet it did. And so I think that God has had his hand on our country in a very unique kind of way. I'm a believer in American exceptionalism. But obviously, we need to continue to recognize that and not drift away from it, because God's blessing on America, I think, is in direct, proportion to America's responsiveness to God's hand.
Agreed.
And so that's why we as a church play an important role, why we keep preaching the gospel, calling people to repentance, and the like. So, Sunday night was a great celebration of all that we treasure and all that we hold dear. The military folks appreciate it. Those who appreciate the military, we're grateful that we did it. And we're just grateful that it was a well-received gift both to our church and to our community as well. We had a lot of community guests. A lot of people from other churches come to these kind of things. And our people go to other churches who do these kinds of musicals when they're aware of it. And so the community is good to one another in that way. So I thought it was a very fun night. And, we have chuckled because Brad asked me to do the narration. This goes back like 25 years when we did our first kind of patriotic celebratory service around the 4th of July. And I think it was the year 2000 when we first did it, which was like 26 years ago. And we were, when Brad and I were serving together in Missouri, we, in 2002, moved to a brand new building. We moved 5 miles away from our current location. So we did a complete church relocation, new building, new facilities. and that was a miracle in Branson, Missouri, and the Lord really blessed that effort. But when we first did what we call Freedom Fest, it was the year 2000. We were at our old building, which would seat, 28 people, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe 200.
Yeah.
And so we got the high school, which was adjacent to us, Forsyth High School, to agree to let us use the gym. And we invited the whole community, and the gym was packed.
Okay.
We had our congressman, Roy Blunt, who later became a senator from Missouri, high-ranking senator, but he was our congressional representative from that area. He came down, he spoke. It was a really exciting night. And the thing that made it most exciting is we had a retired colonel, Army colonel in our church. He said, I know some people. And at first he said, what would you think if I could get you an Apache helicopter? And that was one of those, well, let us pray about it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We'll find a room.
And he came back several days later. Of course, we immediately said yes, trying to figure out logistically, well, what are we going to do with it? Where are we going to land it? Right here in the heart of this little county seat town. So he came back several days later, and he said, well, regrettably, I was not able to secure a helicopter, but I do have us a Huey. And Huey is a classic American airborne vehicle, obviously. But Hueys, gained their prominence in the Vietnam era. So we did get the Huey. And the two guys I think they were from the Missouri Air National Guard up in Springfield. And they flew that thing down to our area. And we had basically told them where they needed to set it down. It was our back parking lot of the church. And they came down, made a couple of passes. Brad and I were in the back along with 2 or 3 other people from the church. This was several hours ahead of the late afternoon performance. It was going to be at the gym, which was right next door to the church.
Okay.
The high school was catty corner to the church, and we shared parking facilities. That's how we were able to actually grow a church a little bit, even though we were only on about 3 acres of property.
Oh, wow.
But if we hadn't had the church's parking lot next door, we'd have been dead in the water. Wouldn't have been able to park cars. So we told him, park on our parking lot, because we're going to have people park at the church. So I think he made a couple of passes, and he set that thing down right on the back parking lot, in between phone lines and electrical lines and everything else. The problem was we forgot to tell any of the neighbors behind the church. Didn't tell one of them that we were bringing in a military helicopter. And the gentleman that literally lived right behind the church was taking a nap. And he came flying out the door. The helicopter blew him out of a cold stone sleep. And he came running out, hair everywhere. And we're like, what's going on? And I had no idea. If you've never been around a helicopter coming in, you have no idea the power. And so, every little pebble, every piece of gravel was flying everywhere. And we were shielding ourselves and ducking to get back in the back door of the church while he landed that thing. Power. But I'm telling you, the line to get in that thing, kids, teenagers, parents, they were lined up. We had a military all-terrain vehicle that was here in front of the worship service Sunday night.
The General.
Compliments of Jim Butler and the General. So we didn't get a helicopter down, but this was our version. And, people line up for that stuff.
It's photo opportunity.
The whole blessed community came out for that musical. The gym was packed, and I thought, well, and I did the narration that year. This year, and we did another one. I don't think it was the next year, but I remember doing one more 4th of July program, and we did it again at the gym. And Brand began to talk with me. He said, "No, you're going to." I said, "No, Carmack's going to do the narration."
Yes, sir.
I said, "Carmack's built for it, and I'm going to be preaching twice that morning. And he'd come in fresh for you. And I think you need to do it. It brings back great memories and this, that, and the other." And I just, I let it lay fallow for a while, and then eventually I started getting serious about it. And I told Judy, I said, "No, I'm just going to tell Brad. He needs to have Carmack do it." And I went and talked to him, and I said, I wasn't that forceful, but I said, "I really think you need to have Carmack do this." He said, "Well, Carmack can't do it."
Yeah, that's true.
And I said, "What do you mean he can't do it? He's going to El Salvador. He'll be in El Salvador the whole time we're rehearsing for this thing." And I said, "I knew that." Didn't even think about it. So, and he said, "By the way, you're the one that told me to do this thing."
Wow.
So, and then he handed me the book.
Put that back in your face.
No, he loved it. And we had Taranda, who's just superstar and beautiful. She just came in that night from Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And the only rehearsal she had with our group was an hour beforehand. Yeah. And they went through her songs, one of which was with Brian Davis, and I thought the roof was going to come off the place. So, fantastically great, good time, blessing to people, and great way to spend a Sunday night, holiday weekend, celebrating America in the summertime.
Well, I'll tell you this too. Aside from the nostalgia of it with you and Brad doing it again, I do think that is pretty special. I think that's a neat thing. But for two, I watched you do the narration, and of course, just excellent, just so well done. But you are, I think the correct term is a history buff. I think you enjoy American history and world history, and you know a lot about it, and
studied it in college,
and putting that extra into it. And I'm not. I just flat out I'm not. But you putting that extra, because I was following along in some of the prompter that I could see when I was walking.
Ad-libbed a little bit.
You ad-lib. When you say a little bit, that's like the podcast went a little long last week. Okay, you had a little bit, but you added valuable historical information and perspective to it, and I mean that sincerely. I thought that and I would not have done that, and you brought that extra to it in a very special, one-time event. The 250th, and so I thought that was a really cool moment. And so aside from me being half here and half mentally not from coming back off the week that we just returned the day before, but you doing that really brought again, I'm blank on words still, but a presence to it.
Well, and we tried to do that Sunday morning as well.
Yeah. Just good.
I'm of course my biggest critic when it comes to preaching. I liked our message Sunday morning. The one thing I didn't want to do on the 4th of July weekend, and I was surprised how many of my pastor colleagues, friends of mine, were off yesterday. In other words, it was a vacation Sunday for them because the holiday fell on the weekend. And I typically check in on video to see what my buddies are doing and what they're preaching and so forth and so on. I bet I checked half a dozen between Sunday and yesterday, early Sunday morning and yesterday. Gone, subs all in there. And I wanted to not do any kind of political speech. I just didn't want it to be a political speech. So I didn't want it to be about the 4th of July, but I didn't want to ignore the 4th of July either. One of my buddies was there, my pastor friends was there, and stayed in series, and we stayed in series,
right.
But stayed in series, but no connection whatsoever. It was just a straight up message without any reference to what was happening over the weekend. And I didn't want to do that either. And this is God. Where did we land? Where were we in our series? The new heaven and the new earth.
New country, yeah.
And what does it say in Hebrews 11? They desired a better country.
Yeah.
Referencing heaven. And so with that in mind, weeks ago, I thought, I'm staying in series. And I knew that's where we were going to be. And so weaving a little bit of the founding of our country, the greatness of our country, the exceptionalism of our country, the miraculous beginning of our country. And then in a book I'm reading on the American Revolution that Eric Metaxas just released earlier, and he's a Christian writer. And it's a good book. It's very accessible to just about anybody. He's a good storyteller, so it's not really an academic treatment, or at least not overly so. But the quote I gave from Abigail Adams came as a result of my reading that book about 2 weeks ago, when she wrote to her husband, who was a delegate, John Adams, to the Constitutional Convention, not the Constitutional, the Second Continental Congress in 1776. And she wrote to him and said, you know, if we end up going to arms on this, and I'm paraphrasing, you're liable to fall to the sword.
Yeah.
But if so, I know we shall be together again in that better country. And she capitalized it, where there will be no wars, no rumors of wars. So that just came as that quote, and I thought, there it is.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
You know, bells go off. Make a note of it, put it in your notes. That can easily be incorporated, because here was a woman 250 years ago that got it. That is great as a land in this present order can be. It pales in comparison to the better country that is to come. And for God's people, I mean, man, if those heroes of the faith who were beneficiaries of the promised land were looking for a better country,
Yeah.
than the covenant land of promise, how much more we? And I think that God puts that longing in our hearts. And we experience that longing more during times of disappointment, discouragement, disease, despair, common to all of us. But God puts that longing for that better place in the life of every believer. And it's a reminder to us not to be too married, even though, listen, by grace, none of us chose to be born here.
Yeah.
It's only by grace that we were. And it's the best place on the planet. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else,
Yeah, of course.
imperfect though we are. But the reality is we don't get too married to it. And that's the problem with a lot of people today. They're altogether too tied. I mean, Jesus referred to it as the world. And America is part of the world system, you know. Like it or lump it, it is. So don't be too tied to it. Celebrate it, rejoice that we're here, but don't get too wedded to it, because there is a far better place to come.
Yeah.
And all we were able to do on Sunday was just kind of set the stage for that, with the destruction of the world order and the merging together with the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven. Again, a lot of mystery with that.
Yeah.
But there'll be a wedding there where God will take what's broken and transform it, just as he will our bodies, into something everlasting and new and glorious.
Yeah. Well, and we're in my opinion, we're in a unique time now, because we are such a polarized country. It's almost, if you're not 110% in, and every sentence in line is about the USA, then you're non-patriotic. And if you go too far with that the other way, then you're just preaching your politics and you don't care about God. It's just, there's this balance even within the church of what that line is. And I thought you walked that very well. We do celebrate our country. We're proud of our country, grateful for our military, everything. And that's consistently our message. And I think that was to be done well, and still keep it in perspective of the better country coming. There's something more to long for, because we don't know what the future looks like. We don't know if we have another 250 years or another, 25 years, or what we have. And so it's just, I thought it was a really great balance of the day. And I thought you leading that was
Well,
very well
I
done.
do appreciate that. I think the thing about America is America was birthed in division, and we've always been divided. And I think a lot of Americans miss that. The founders were divided. They fussed, they argued, they fought, and a lot of that, particularly surrounding the Constitution, came from the slave states. You know, and of course, our original sin as a country is slavery. Our country was birthed in slavery. The guy that wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The man that wrote that, Thomas Jefferson, over the course of his life, owned 600 other human beings.
Wow.
He's an enigma.
Yeah.
And even at his death, he never set them free.
Wow.
Washington did. Washington was a slave owner, but in his will, he freed every last one of them. Jefferson never did, and wrote the founding sentence of the United States. Joseph Ellis.
So he said all men, but may not have meant all men.
Well, and that's the big argument.
Yeah.
You know, did he really mean all men are created, or in his mind, all white men of property
Right. Yeah.
are created equal? And the reality is, we've been arguing, fussing about that, and fought a civil war over it. You know, 150 years later, and or 100 years later or so. But even with that, so we've been divided but we've always figured out a way to rise above our division. And, you know, probably the last time that America was really united, World War II. I mean, really, everybody was together on the same page.
Yeah.
Was World War II. Put all of the other stuff aside, the freedom of the world's at stake, you know, here.
Yeah.
And so in times like that, arguably September 11th, that was another time.
It was close, yeah.
That was probably the most recent.
Even 80s with Reagan's popularity and what we were doing against, you know, Russia and all those. I kind of remember those, and I was younger then. But yeah, I think you're right as far as everybody.
And then, you know,
willing to give and willing to sacrifice for the
that's
country.
right.
Willing to give.
And then you ebb and flow, and the country goes polar again, and we're kind of, you know, we're kind of there to there. It's like 50-50.
Yeah.
A line right down the middle of the country, politically speaking anyway. Yeah. But even with that, you know, there is still a goodness to our country, and freedom reigns. Yeah. And we do what we can to preserve it and protect it and to further it, you know, for our children and grandchildren to come. So, you know, that's what we wanted to do, celebrate God's blessing on us as a people, while at the same time pointing people to the true nature of home, you know, which is what Jesus came to show us. You know, I go to prepare a place for you. Yeah. So hopefully that's what we communicated. Lots of good responses, and so we're grateful for that.
If you weren't able to be here, or if you missed it streaming, I think it's on our YouTube channel under Hillcrest Church. So I'll confirm that. If I'm wrong, forgive me, but I'm pretty sure we posted that on our YouTube channel as well. You can go back and watch that if you'd like. It was really well done. All right, well, we got to wrap it, but you're going to bring more on New Heaven, New Earth this coming Sunday. Is that correct?
Well, we're going to talk this coming Sunday. This will be the final message in this leg of our What's Next series. We will eventually, after the summertime, I think around September, come back and do 4 teachings, Lord willing, on hell. But we're going to bring to a conclusion this leg, which has dealt with the kingdom of heaven, and wrap that up with a brief discussion, and I'm still working on it, of 2 things, namely, one, what kinds of things are we going to know in heaven?
Okay.
I think the title of the message will be Our Experiences in the Final Kingdom, or what will we experience in heaven, something like that.
Okay.
What will we know? And I think we need to address that because, you know, you've heard us. I'm so thankful Dad was able to see this from glory today. Well, was he really able to see it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So people have those kinds of questions. It's one of those things. We may not settle the matter But what kinds of things will we know in heaven? A lot of that will focus like on the here and now. So when we say heaven, what will we know in heaven? What we're really saying is, what do those who have gone on to be with the Lord in the intermediate state, in paradise, what do they know? Look at 4 or 5 scriptures that kind of at least allude to that, try to draw a couple of conclusions from it. And then what kinds of things, second, will we do in heaven? That will focus, I think, more on final heaven.
Okay.
What will we do in the new heaven and the new earth? Not to the exclusion of what will we know there, but what will we do there? What kind of things might we be exposed to? And again, going to do both of those in one message, which means we're not going to have time to chase a lot of rabbits, which is fine with me because a lot of that, as we've talked about before, you have to be careful about not diving headfirst into the realm of speculation,
Right.
Which is fun to do, particularly with concerning heaven, because it captures our imagination. But part of the problem is, as we speculate, we tend to land on our preferences, and if we're not careful, our preferences can become dogma. So that if someone says, well, I'm not sure that Dad was watching what was going on at the graduation, and now I'm mad at you.
Right, because
And now you
that was
become the
comforting to
enemy.
me. You've
Yeah.
taken my comfort away from that.
So you have to be very careful about making dogmatic things that the Bible really is not directly clear about.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about some of that stuff, and that may be a good way to kind of cap off what I have. I can't speak for anybody else. I've profited from the study. First time I've ever done a series on heaven,
Just heaven,
the
yeah.
intermediate state, the final aspect of the kingdom. And then after that, we'll take a little summer hiatus, and our preaching for about a month of Sundays will be on the Psalms. And we do that a lot. We like to bring the Psalms in because the Psalms are so voluminous that we can't do a series on Psalms, nor would anybody want us to do that because the subject matter is typically often very similar. And so it's a good thing to kind of break that up and treat them 3 or 4 at a time. So we're going to do that in the summer. And then we've got a brand new series starting in the month of August that we'll be introducing. More about that later. Then we'll finish up the What's Next series and keep moving on from there.
Yeah.
The Lord never lets us run out of ideas or things to talk about.
Inexhaustible.
Yeah.
Very good. But this is going to be the week then to get in your questions. So anything you want to know about heaven that you want Pastor Jim to definitively answer.
Get them in.
With no variability. Get them in. Podcast@hillcrestchurch.com. You can email them and get them to us. No, thank you again, as always. I enjoy the time just sitting with you and hearing and gleaning off of you. So it's always good. So I'll save my questions on heaven until next week. We'll see you Sunday morning. We'll see you hopefully Sunday morning. 9 Mile Campus, 9:30 and 11. Spanish Trail Campus, 9:30. Catch us online. Just appreciate you being here and appreciate you being here. So have a great week, and we'll see you Sunday. God bless you.